Hmm. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, good morning, good afternoon. I would almost say good evening, but we're not quite there yet. Good morning, Candace. Good morning to everybody else. Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to day one of the Furbabies Summit. This has been a long project in the making. So I'll say a few words about that and just say how happy I am to have all of you on here, for those that are with us today and those that are coming in for the rest of the weekend. And for those who've read my posts and followed the content for a while and been listening to us share our stories, we have a lot more to share. I am really, really excited about this today because this is truly a passion project of mine. There's a lot that I could say about it. I don't want to get rather long-winded, but I will say that the Furbabies Summit was born out of a very hard, a lot of loss, if you will. We've all been through the last 2 years together, and it's been a whirlwind of a ride for everybody. For me personally, amidst everything else, I actually lost two of my longtime fur babies almost back to back. And I say that because it's an important thread throughout this whole event. And it was the final driving reason why I wanted to start doing this. I lost both of my babies to cancer, which is not unusual. We all end up going through that at some point. But mine were labeled by my vet, who I love to death, as rare. And they hit so close together that, I mean, we barely lost one before the other one was really going down that ledge, and it was getting a lot worse, a lot faster. I did a lot of things in their treatment, and I have a lot of support groups in our rescue groups and our Facebook groups and in my work colleagues and friend circles. But this was just a little bit different. And I didn't know what to do with a lot of it. So I did a lot of research, and we treated as best we could. So I learned a lot from that. But ultimately, they did pass on. And the first one, it was a little bit abrupt at the end, which will tie into another one of our speakers today. But the second one, my Mara, we were able to follow through to the end here at home. And that was a blessing. But both of those two back to back like that, really, it hit me for a loop. And I know that does a lot of people, but I've been an animal lover and a pet advocate ever since I was old enough to say at 4 years old, I want to be a vet. So I've had animals my whole life. And, you know, sometimes you just have the ones that really strike a bit of an extra nerve. And that's what those two were for me. So once I got my head back on straight, I decided, you know, I see so many of my friends and new people coming on that are announcing these cancers and kidney disease and things like that. And they don't know, they feel like they're alone and they don't know what to do. And there's a lot of information out there, but it kind of feels like it's overwhelming at times. So I wanted to do something about that. I kind of hit it also, not just once you're in treatment or you have these diagnoses, but kind of before that, kind of to come in and say, you know what? Let me take stock of my surroundings and theirs and figure out there are some things that are stressful. Now, we all know stress causes health issues in humans, but it also causes stress issues and health issues for our babies too. So I wanted to look at that and also look at some things that we could shine a light on pre-diagnosis and go, you know what, if this pops up and we think it, you know, some things legitimately are nothing, but some things are something. And they need, you know, if you just have that in the back of your mind as, oh, I need to maybe pay attention to this, or, oh, I read about that somewhere and I want to call attention to it. And they reach out to their vet or they reach out to their support groups. And it can save a life. So my missive in that was if I can go out and share my stories, but also find people that are smarter than me and have even like tons and tons more experience than I do, and we can share that together for fur baby parents as a whole, then maybe they won't have to go through what I did. And maybe they won't have to go through what you did. And maybe they can hit something off at the pass, or, you know, jump from step A where we're in the unknown of, well, maybe to point D where we're like, we know what this is, and these are some things we can do, and we can start them sooner. So Mara and Rami were big drivers for this conference. And a lot of you that are watching these now were actually very supportive of me when I was going through this with them. And again, I really appreciate that. So I try to be there as much as I can for a lot of you because I know the feelings. And I try to share what I do know. And again, I just look to people that are smarter than I am and bring them on to talk about this. So our speakers for this weekend, this is a huge part of the reason why the speakers this weekend are here. Each one of them is here for a reason. We will be talking about the cancers, things to watch out for, things to kind of notice. Like if you've got a lump and a bump and it turns them into a grump, it might be something besides a cyst, but how to look out for things like this, how to make decisions about their food. And I'm not getting on the food wars, but make informed decisions about their food, because not every food is suited for every animal, cat or dog. And we can buy the most expensive, they won't eat it. We can buy the cheapest, they won't eat it. It's different for everybody. And given particular health conditions, there's different things that we look for. So there's things about nutrition, there's things about cancers, there's things about kidney disease, there's things about stress in the home. There will be segments about how we work with our vets, and then also how we work with our holistic vets and homeopathy, things where that can come into play as a helpful addition, not replacement, but a helpful addition to their care, because the two of them work pretty well together. We've got someone coming on, Jenna Mann from Embrace, which is a pet insurance company. And I've stood by that because I was fortunate to have some of my littles on pet insurance. Some I haven't. And as we know, or if you don't know, vet care, like a lot of other things, as the technology increases in the veterinary field, and the treatments they have access to are a lot like humans. So it's more expensive. So pet insurance may be a really, really good idea if it's something that you can fit in your budget. And some people have different misconceptions about it. So she's going to come on to talk about that. We have a wonderful group coming in that focuses on dogs with cancers and how to help support the community that they are in. And they're going to hopefully be going more nationwide, is kind of their mission. So there's a lot of resources there and a lot of groups, and they give back with a really powerful volunteer program that I'm excited for them to talk about too. We have 3 of our rescues on for this event. Now, I know there's a lot of rescues out there, so bear with me. There's a lot of rescues out there, and we only have 3 days. So I started with these because I've been following them for several years. They are really good at what they do, and they each of them kind of specializes a little bit differently, if you will. One of them is going to come on in just a little bit and talk to us about how they harness the power of social media with their rescue and their network and their followers. Others really focus on special needs pets. Others focus on senior pets, which often get overlooked. So each one of these are in the vein of what I like to call rescues that are getting it right. And they, to me, are a beacon and an inspiration for other groups out there and other rescue groups, or people starting out. Like, here's some things that you can look to them and go, oh, that worked. Like, okay, I can try that, We have in addition to that, we've got one of our locals that's here in Austin. That's through Healthy Pet. So they're going to come on and talk about different foods and what's best for your cats and your dogs, and kind of other things that you can use your local pet food stores to work with you. They're almost like a boutique in a way, but a little bit better. So I have a question. How long have I been a pet advocate for? I've been an animal lover since I was a child, and I've been a pet advocate since I was a teenager, because I learned that actually from my grandmother and my mom. So we've had cats and dogs my entire life. We've had squirrels, birds, fish. Now we've had little possums, which were they're so cute. But yeah, since I was a teenager, and I've always advocated for, we spay and neuter, we try to get the best healthcare we can for them. I've gone through and protesters have written so much about animal cruelties and things like that. And I think that was actually really where it started. Was I never knew there was so much cruelty in the world until I was a teenager, and then I started finding out, and that was before the internet. So now it's so much more. But that was another thing too, to bring awareness to that out there, because a lot of us are working to fight against it, and a lot of us are working to help get the laws in the states changed to where animal abuse is recognized as a felony more so, well, it is now, but more so that the punishments are stricter and you can actually catch them doing it and stop them from doing it. So that is a big point for me too. So yes, since I was a kid and since I was a teenager as a pet advocate. So I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but I'm old enough to have been fortunate to have a lot of fur babies. So but again, so this was born out of, it's a passion project, and it was born out of losing Mara and Rami like I did, and just wanting to help other pet parents. So this is our very first one. I'm really excited about it. There's been a lot of work that's gone into it, but it doesn't really feel like work when you love what you're doing. So I don't know that I would call it work as much. But a lot of late nights, a lot of relearning some technology, a lot of herding cats, in a gentle, affectionate way. I'm not being mean at all, but it's a lot of fun when you get to go through and coordinate so many different speakers and lives and things like that. And we had some other speakers that were planning to be on, but were unable to, so we cut it down a little bit because life happens, So for those that are going through some stuff, we send you our blessings and our love, and we'll see you next time. And for those, again, that are going to be here this weekend, we send you a lot of love and a lot of thanks, and we really appreciate your time. So I also wanted to introduce, if you see someone in the background, that is Scott. He is he jokes and says he's chief bottle washer for the Furbabies Summit, but he's helping with the tech and the Zoomcast today. So he should be on the panelists. So if you have a message or if you have an issue or whatnot that I may not be able to see, you can message directly to the panelists, and he'll see your question and can definitely jump in to help or flag me. So my biggest goal with the Furbabies Summit, thank you, Scott, is I want to educate other pet parents, other fur baby parents. I want them to know that A, no matter what you're going through, you are not alone. B, there are a multitude of options out there, both on the front end and on the back end. A diagnosis is not always a death sentence. So I try to, don't always think that, there's a lot of other things that we can do. And there's a lot of things that are being trialed and tested even now. So it changes all the time. So there is a lot more out there. And I wanted them to know that there are support groups out there on Facebook and through LinkedIn. You can even find a larger audience now on Instagram that's growing, but there are a lot of other people out there like you, and don't go through your grief alone, because it really does a number on your psyche, and it does a number on your heart too. And there are enough people that have gone through this or are going through this that sometimes it's just really nice to have, a shoulder or a heart emoji or a prayer emoji, however you pray, however you communicate. It's always nice to know, hey, there's somebody out there that's with me, that's been through this. I'm not alone, because that takes down a lot of the stress, and you can kind of get back to a baseline to work on a plan of care, and you can be there with your babies. And something I've learned that was phenomenal to me, but I learned something every time. I learned something every day. I was always really close to my littles, and I spent an inordinate amount of time with them, and it's always been a massive priority for me. But every time one of them has gone down that road, and we're nearing, the last few months of it being the end, our bond has gotten so much deeper, even when I didn't think it could get any deeper. I mean, they are literally my children. I don't have human children, was not able to do that, but I have furry-legged children. So, and one more thing I will add today is, in addition to the goals, something to celebrate. I have a 19-year-old today. I have a little black panther. She's a girl. Her name is Fury Elena. And I adopted Fury and her brother in 2003 in June, and they knew that their birthday was April the 8th. So I've had Fury now the longest of any fur baby I've ever been blessed to have. So I'm so grateful for that, because she's been through, she sailed through the first 10 years of her life with no issues whatsoever. She looks like a little 50s Halloween cat with a little archback and everything. She's very petite. But she was fine, and she had one or two health issues, but last year she grew a tumor on her back right leg, and ultimately, I know what you're thinking. She was 18 years old, and I thought the same thing. My vet was, realistically, she said, I cannot go in and get this out because it was in her knee bend. I can't get this out. It made total sense. And there's the possibility and the high probability that, given the type of tumor it was, it would grow back or it would show up somewhere else. So we had her go see an oncologist, thank goodness. And he was an amazing surgeon. And he said, I evaluate every animal based on their health, not just on their age. She's actually very, very healthy. And she wasn't ready to go. So we prayed about it. We talked about it. We planned about it. We talked about it a lot more. And then finally, we had the surgery. So she is a tripod now. I call it a tripod, but other people, they say, well, I've got a tripod. And that's a big one. You get a lot of differing opinions on that. And I struggled with it, but she has done so well. She really has. Her surgery was in December, and, she spent 2 weeks in crate rest. And then, she was ready to get up and start hopping around, and she's got her little cadence now. So she gets around the house just fine. She eats like a little horse. You would look at her and go, there's no way she is turning 19 today, but she is. So I'm very grateful and very blessed to have her. And I think she's another example of, sometimes they are much stronger than we are. and they can get through a lot, but you have to look at their whole body and their whole health. And that includes their mental well-being and their physical well-being. So we're celebrating Fury Elena's birthday today. And for anybody else who has a super senior out there, please feel free to share your comments and your stories and your photos on them. I would love to see it so we can share them too. And after today, we'll start rooting to get her to 20 and see how that goes. So let's see. Yes, thank you, Furbabies Summit. Fury bounces around, and she's more active as a tripod than she was when she had 4 legs. And to that end, it changed very quickly. She went from happy, a little grumpy, but happy. Seniors, they get a little like, get off my lawn. She was happy, but she was starting to kind of slow down a little bit. And then after that thing was out of her, she was totally different. So it's like she has a new lease on life. And they did the incision up on her hip line. So it looks pretty gnarly at first, but it's fine. And again, the surgeon he did such a great job, and she did not have it anywhere else in her body. Thank goodness. And she goes in for a checkup so we can make sure she's doing okay and get some scans done. So I'm very, very grateful for that. Did you have another question before we get started? Because I see Sharon's on. Hi, Sharon. Otherwise, that's pretty much my opening. Let's go ahead and pause this and move on to Sharon, because I am so happy she's on and excited, and she has a very full day too. So I will pause this for a second